Hi everybody, and thank you for joining me today. So, I have moved my frame over once again, and today I'm going to be working on another eye motif. I've got a lot of it done, and I'm sort of doing the outer edge of it now today. Yeah, I think this is an eye motif that's off of one of his longer wing feathers, and then above it are the tail feathers. Yeah, that is where I'm working today. So we're going to be doing some along here and some building up from here. And just kind of stitching back and forth and such the way I usually do. If there's more background noise today, that's because I do not have the house to myself. My gosh, smacking my hand into the frame there, that's no good. I rarely do that, but some days, yeah. Yeah, so we finally had our first snow. But, yeah, it's really late in the year for us. Oh, whoops. Oh, I was forgetting which mode I'm in. Yeah. And all melting the next day. Yeah, well above freezing, so. Well, our first few snows don't usually stick. They usually melt pretty quick. But yeah, this is late for getting snow. We usually have our first one before Halloween. So yeah, this is unusual. But yeah, the end of the year is approaching. Yeah, the other day actually I was updating on Goodreads, and I took a look at how I'm doing on my reading challenge, and yeah, I am way behind. It said like 9 books behind schedule. Whoops. Yeah. I do a challenge to do 52 books a year, so 1 per week. And although this is kind of on pattern for me, I'm usually fair ways behind at this time, but then the end of the year I read usually a few novellas, which are faster, and so yeah, I make up the number that way, but we'll see. Yeah. Yeah, I used to challenge myself to read 150 a year, and I did it for several years, in fact. There was one year I did 175, although I will admit there were at least 30 of those were novellas, but still, yeah. Actually, I think that was the year I first got a Kindle. So yeah, I went a little nuts with all the free books. Right, it's a nice way to try different authors. A lot of authors will release sort of a free novella so you can get kind of a sample of their work. And if you like it, yeah, obviously they're hoping you will buy more. But yeah, I think I'm at under 40 for the year. So yeah, we'll see if we make it or not. It's funny because I was listening to podcasters saying that one year it asked, you know, at the beginning of the year, it gives you the option to fill in a challenge if you wish. And she said, and me, not thinking about how many days are in a year, thought I could read 300 books in a year, you know, forgetting that there's 365 days in a year, 366 if it's a leap year, but, you know, and yeah, and she said, and it let me set it to whatever I want without being like, hey, by the way, lady, are you nuts? So, yeah. And then, of course, then the whole year is like, you're 30 books behind schedule and stuff. Yeah, so I'm like, well, you can edit them, though, at least. Yeah, if you do that. Because I have, at times, changed the number later. There was one year I went past the number, so I upped it to 60 books. But, yeah, the last few years in a row, I have picked 52. Like I said, 1 per week, and then, yeah. And I'm trying to push myself to read a bit more nonfiction as well. Yeah, I read mostly fiction, but sometimes what I've been doing is sort of I read a chapter of a nonfiction book, and then I do the rest of my reading on a fiction book, yeah. Because I don't read much during the day. I used to, but yeah, now I read before I go to sleep. It helps me sleep. And because they say, you know, looking at a screen is a good way to keep yourself awake. Reading helps you to, helps you to get drowsy. And I find even on nights when I'm feeling really sleepy, if I skip it, yeah, it's like my brain doesn't get the message that it's time to shut off for the night and go to sleep if I don't read, even if it's just a couple of pages. Yeah, so. Okay. Yeah, I said I can't really concentrate on reading like I used to, maybe because when I'm reading, I'm only reading. My other hobbies, I'm usually doing more than one thing at a time. Oh, what's this? Did this pull up another thread here or what? Yeah, looks like it might have. Oh, goodness. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, there's an end there. It's getting wrapped around it. Coming along for the ride. But yeah, I was always a natural speed reader. When I was a kid, in fact, I had difficulty reading out loud in class because I would read sort of as fast as I read in my head. Yeah, which was fast, so people couldn't keep up. I had to actually make a concerted effort to learn to read at a speed that people can actually comprehend what you're saying. So, yeah. I think it was when I was a kid, we weren't allowed much TV. Yeah. Like, we were allowed educational stuff like, you know, Mr. Rogers' Square One, which was a science program. Or no, that was a math one. Yeah, that was math. It was Contact that was a science, or Newton's Apple. Yeah, we were allowed those, but not really much else. So, yeah, I read a lot. I was a big rereader too. I still do, but not as much anymore. Yeah, apparently people who have anxiety tend to like to reread or rewatch stuff because knowing how it ends makes you less anxious. So, yeah. Or it's just, you know, the familiar is comforting, but yeah. So I used to reread a lot, but but then I guess I'm thinking I didn't have as much access to variety of books as like now, right? I mean, internet, you can get anything, right? So, but yeah, when I was a kid, it was just, you know, books I owned or the library. So, and my mom would only take us to the library like every 3 weeks because that's how long you could check books out for. So, yeah. And she would only let me borrow so many at a time. So, yeah. As I blasted through them pretty darn fast. Yeah, rereading became a thing. I did a lot. Actually, it was kind of fun because a few years ago I went through and found sort of my childhood favorites and, you know, young adult readers and stuff that I'd really loved, and passed them along to my kiddo to enjoy as well. Yeah, because I still had my old copies. Well, they read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe because that's required reading in, at least here it is. It has been for a long time. It was required reading when I was a kid too. And I was like, well, guess what? There are 6 other books and I have them. So, yeah. I think he read all but the last one. He never did get into the last one, but yeah, and my husband had some fantasy series too that he let our kiddo have, so yeah. Yeah, his was the Dark is Rising, he said, was one of his favorites. And then he said, you know, if you're still into fantasy, my husband's a big Terry Brooks fan, and so he has many of those, the Shannara series. So, yeah, he said, you can borrow those, and he doesn't even have all of them. I think the author's written like 30 of them or something, you know, ridiculous like that. So, yeah, it would take you a long time to read through that backlist. Yeah, they actually tried adapting it for a TV series a few years ago. They did 2 seasons, and it was pretty good. My husband said it was pretty true to the books, but not quite as good as the book. But I mean, that's what every reader is going to say, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's not how it was in the book. Okay, yeah, that's a short one. That's what I thought. So sometimes when I have 2 strands, they'll kind of meet in the middle, but this is only really long enough for one stitch anyway. So I will just do the rest of them with this strand, and then if there's enough left over, park it up over to the right. Yeah, I remember one of my friends was asking about my Kindle because her daughter was curious, and I was saying, oh, you know, I like the Paperwhite and it's got a built-in light and everything. So, because sometimes, rarely, but sometimes my husband will want to go to sleep before me, so I can read without a lamp, you know. And she's like, yeah, I'm not sure I want my daughter to have that because she already reads with a flashlight under the covers way past her bedtime, so I don't want to make it easier for her. So, yeah. Yeah. I said, yeah, I caught my kid doing that. I said, it's kind of torn because it's like, you need your sleep, but at the same time, well, I'm glad you're reading. Reading is good. Yeah. Yeah, one of my friends in high school, we were so bad for that, night owls, and we would read till 2, 3 in the morning and then be at school the next day like, oh man, I got no sleep. You were reading? Yeah, I was. Yeah. Yeah, I was like, well, the book was too good. You tell yourself, well, just one more chapter and I'll go to sleep. Then, yeah, next thing you know, it's morning and you read the whole thing. Yeah, I said, now that I'm older, it's a lot rarer a book is good enough for me to do that. I don't know if it's just I'm too tired to stay up from getting older, or it's just I'm more patient with cliffhangers now. You know, I can live with the I have to know what happens a little better than I used to be able to. So maybe it's that I've learned more patience rather than I'm just, yeah, getting old and tired. Who knows? I'll go with that. Why not? Yeah. Okay, so these are not perfectly smooth, but again, I'm not closing in on all 4 sides, so take a look at how this goes. So I'll do these, oops, need to change this, do these here, and then park it. Except, I might actually, yeah, thinking now. I think I will do one more right here. Yeah, because I can see now that filled in oval symbol, I'm going to want to do both of those that are to the right of this stitch first before I do that stitch. So, yeah. So, yeah, as I said, I'm going to be working on a bit of a wider area today, this way and this way, just because this is all part of that same sort of eye motif on the feather there. So, oops. Try that again. All right. Yes, so I was working lots of yellows yesterday. And then today it's back to some greens. Yeah, so that chime you heard was my husband sneaking out to the garage. He's got the day off as well, so yeah. Okay, so all of these. Do that one, and then again park. So yeah. And then fill in with the next color, and so on and so on. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was talking about reading earlier, and I had to turn off notifications because every time I update it on Goodreads, then I get an email saying, you know, you just finished this book. What's next? And I'm like, okay, well, I know I finished the book. I'm the one who filled it in. You don't need to tell me. And it was always, what's next? It's like, okay, I just finished it. Be proud of me. I finished another book, you know. Oh, so yeah, I ended up turning those off because it was really annoying. Yeah, anyway, I also get from Amazon if I buy the Kindle version, and I'll get a email like 3 weeks later. It's been 3 weeks since you bought this book. You want to review it? I'm like, you think I read books immediately after I buy them? No. They go to the bottom of the TBR and have to work their way to the top, which takes a few years usually. Yeah. If a book jumps the queue, it was because it was a book I really wanted to read. Yeah, it must be something by a favorite author that's especially good because, yeah, things do not jump the queue. Like, I don't read everything in order. There's stuff that I have an A list and then sort of a B list. And so, yeah, the A list stuff does get read faster, but I do kind of alternate. I'll read, 3 or 4 from my A list, and then I'll read 1 from my B list to kind of, yeah. Well, I kind of want to push myself to try new authors because I have quite an extensive list of authors I like, but I don't want to miss out on potentially, there being somebody that I would like, and I never tried them, so. Oh, yeah. And I definitely slacked off of reading from paper, yeah. I go through maybe 3 or 4 paper books a year, and they're generally the ones I keep in the bathroom, yeah. So I sort of gets a page or 2 read per day, like when I'm brushing my teeth or whatever, so yeah. Oh my gosh. Try not to tangle that. Okay. Yeah, this is a lot of this color. It's going to get divided quite a bit. I can see that right now. As per usual, I don't close in stuff, so I sort of work in around where those other stitches are, pardon me, scattered in and breaking up the main color there. Oh, change my position here so I don't get numb. Yeah. sit, there's a certain way if I sit, one of my legs falls asleep, so yeah, I have to shift to stop putting pressure on whatever nerve it is that's doing that. Well, I find it happens less when I'm not filming because I move my stand back and forth more as I'm changing threads and stuff. So that kind of keeps things moving. But yeah, when I'm making a session for you all, obviously I'm trying to keep things as still as possible, although yeah, I apologize. I know my stand is wobbly. Yeah, I don't want to be shifting it back and forth, so yeah, that means I kind of have to shift around a bit more with myself. Okay. Okay, yeah, I can kind of see the different colors are feathering like that. Well, which makes sense since they actually are meant to depict feathers. Oh, there's the end. Couldn't find it to trim it. Usually I can find it just by touch, but it was not cooperating today. Yeah, although I said the one nice thing about not reading from paper is I have a huge library with me at all times, because yeah, there were many times I brought a book with me, and because I was expecting to be somewhere for a while, and I lost interest and it was just not good, and it's like, well, now I have nothing to read, so I can either force myself to keep reading something, but I'm not, gripped by it, or read nothing. So yeah, that actually was how I ended up reading one of those bathroom reader books, because yeah, my husband went out of town for a couple of days and he had me come with him, and yeah, so I brought a book with me while he was working, and then yeah, I got bored, or no, it was a character did something that just didn't sit well with me or something, and yeah, I didn't want to read it anymore, and it was like, well, now I have nothing to read, because this was before smartphones. And yeah, and then I saw one of his coworkers had one of those big trivia bathroom readers on their desk. It's like, well, I guess I'll read this. So that is what I did. Yeah. But yeah, now it's like I have either my e-reader with me or I have the app on my phone. So yeah, if something's not holding my interest, next. I will never run out. Yeah, I used to be a completist with books. I used to suffer through them even if I wasn't enjoying it. But yeah, like I said, now that I'm older, I have more books that I want to read than I'm ever going to have time to read. So there is no time to waste on bad books. Yeah. So yeah, Goodreads comes with, you can make your own shelves. And so they have 3 you start with that are exclusive shelves, so that means it can only be on one of those. So there's 2 want to read, read, and what's the last one? Currently reading. That's it. Yes, I knew that was it. And the book can only be on one of those at a time, and you can actually make your own exclusive shelves, I discovered. So I did that. So I also added did not finish, and yeah, and purged, which is for ones that I decided I'm not going to read. Maybe I've tried the author 4 times and I don't like them, and at that point, why waste time trying to 5th, right? So yeah, because maybe it was a book I got for free on Kindle, because free, who can turn that down, right? But yeah, like if I've tried 4 different books and I didn't like all of them, yeah, I don't really see the point. Obviously other people like them, but they're not a good fit for me. So let's not waste any more time. And then, yeah, I have plenty of others because I use it to keep track of how many books I acquire, how many books I go through, because I don't always finish them, but I count them as books I started that year. And then, yeah, how many did I finish? How many did I decide were DNF, did not finish status? And, yeah, that kind of thing. So what year I acquired them, did I buy them on sale? So, yeah, I think I have something like over 100 shelves on Goodreads now, because every year I have to add new ones, right? Yeah, so I will add, acquired 2024, 2024 for just everything that I tried, whether I finished it or not. Did not finish 2024, like all that. So yeah, I have lots of them. And that way, because I have people say, how do you keep those book stats? It's like, well, Goodreads does it all for me. I just make those shelves and I tag books with them. So and then I know, yeah, did I get it for free? Did I buy it on sale? Did I pay full price? That kind of thing. So yeah. And then at the end of the year, I put a Z in front of all those that were the shelves for the current year, so that they go to the bottom of the list, and I start the new shelves for the new year. Yeah, so I've been doing that for quite a while. Yeah, I joined Goodreads in 2010, I believe. And 2012 was when I started keeping better track of what I bought where and when and that sort of thing. So yeah. Yes, and that's how I see I'm always almost always behind. I almost always acquire more books than I read. Although I don't take as many free ones anymore. Yeah. When I first started collecting ebooks, I just kind of, anything that was free, boom, took it. But yeah, now I'm becoming a little more discerning with it. But I don't know. My thought is always, you can always delete them later. They don't have you a limited amount of space in the cloud. So yeah, it's not like you have to worry about that. There's very few books, whether I liked it or not, that I actually go and delete from my library entirely, like not just from my device, but like from the cloud. Yeah, but that's pretty rare. But yeah, I have a few that I got for free later that I spent a lot of money tracking down out of print copies years before. And it's like, oh, if I'd only known, it would become a thing, I would have just waited and had it for free. But then I was thinking, well, I have these on ebook. I guess I can get rid of my hard copies. And then I was like, yeah, but I just can't make myself do it. Some of these I spent like, $25 on a mass market paperback because it was out of print and hard to find. And yeah, I just can't make myself get rid of that. Plus, I always say, you never know if anything catastrophic ever happened to the server and I lost those, then yeah, I would no longer have a copy and I'd be really upset that I got rid of the paper copies that I spent a fair amount to track down. But yeah, I basically don't really buy paper books anymore. Sometimes I will for a nonfiction, because even though they have all sorts of features on the Kindle where you can put tabs and annotations and highlights and all that stuff, there's still something about putting sticky notes in a physical, nonfiction book. Yeah, that I feel cannot be fully replicated with an electronic book, at least for me. So, but fiction, yeah, I basically almost never buy it on paper anymore. Oops, oh darn. Pulled out one envelope and another one came out with it and flew away. Well, it was white, I think, which I'm not using. Yeah, in fact, I think my white stitches is, yeah, down to below. It's at 359, so there are not very many. I think, and most of them are way further down on the fence. Yeah, the fence that is below, sort of, that the peahen is, I think, standing on. Yeah, and on her chest feathers too. There's some white, but yeah, we're not going to get to that for a while because that's in the next pass. So yeah, I'll pick it up later. Yeah, which is my long rambling way of saying I can leave that envelope there for now. I'll pick it up later when I'm done filming. But yeah, so I think I have, oh sheesh, 3 bookshelves downstairs that are where I have my keeper books that are paper. And one of the shelves is holding books I haven't read yet. And a couple of years ago, I made it my New Year's resolution to read at least 1 shelf's worth. That totally did not happen. Yeah. I've been trying to push myself to, but I don't know. Well, I said one big thing is I can make the font bigger on a ebook, which is really nice. And I don't have to physically hold it open. And I find with some of the paperbacks, they were cheap and they tried to make the margins as small as possible, which means you really have to press it open to read the words that are, you know, in the center. And yeah, my hand can get sore. I know I've seen there's actually on Etsy and stuff, they sold these things that it goes around your thumb and has sort of like wings on either side to help push the book open. But yeah, so there's that too. And I really don't like breaking the spines in books, so yeah. Yeah, I had to start taking glucosamine because I was getting soreness in my hands when I was picking objects up, I noticed, especially when it was, yeah. And so I started taking that and I have noticed a big difference, yeah. But yeah, that's, again, another rambling way to say is I try not to strain my hands. I do have a book holder, paperback book holder to hold it open, but yeah. I've just been kind of lazy. I don't know, too. It's like my phone is always there distracting me, right? Yeah. Yeah, I had one of my friends who said she actually has to put her phone like across the room face down so she can't see the screen lighting up when notifications come through with it muted, or she can't get any reading done. It's like, yeah, I feel that. Yeah, my ability to focus, I think, has gotten worse as I've gotten older. Yeah, I can focus on stitching because I'm either talking with you all or I have TV going while I'm stitching, so yeah. Usually some kind of a mystery show, so that kind of keeps my brain engaged as I try to figure out who done it. Yeah, I always say I know a movie is really, or TV show was really good if I just sat there and watched it and didn't do anything else. Didn't knit, didn't stitch, didn't play Sudoku on my phone. Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons I have a harder time reading now, is I'm almost always doing at least 2 things at once. So, yeah, just sitting there reading is just not really something I do anymore. And walking and reading, people look at you funny. I said, which is funny because walking and looking at your phone, nobody looks at you funny, but you walk with a book and people will look at you funny. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so a bit of a bigger block here. Kind of intersected with other colors here. Wow, there's a lot of this color, so I'm probably going to end up with multiple threads of it as per my usual. Oh yeah, and I will say, if you look at the number of stitches that I stitched, and it's like, wow, how'd you do so many? Yeah, I did over 200 before I started, so yeah. Before I started filming. think it was 225, but I forgot to make a note of it before I started, so. But yeah, as you can see, we're closing in on 54%. Might be done that by the end of this week. We will see. Yeah, we're getting closer to being done with this color. It's 61 stitches left after I finish stitching this one, so. Yeah, I have a few numbers that are below 100 stitches, but yeah, they are kind of, the colors are scattered all over, so. Like I said, I don't think I'm going to hit my first 0 until probably 2/3 of the way through the next pass is my estimate. We will see. Yeah, I love hitting those zeros. That's fun. And then I take the envelope out and put it back into my master set. So yeah, by the end, there are very few to go through. So I think that's going to be it for that thread. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm probably just going to make a break there for now, and I'll continue curving it outwards as I work that bit, but I'm thinking, yeah, I'll take a look. I'll decide after I tie this one off. I might actually continue to extend this green just to avoid a hard stop straight line there, even though I haven't had problems with lines, but you never know. Yeah. So yeah, thinking this color here, yeah, I might actually continue curving that outwards for the moment rather than cutting it off. As usual, I decide as I go. So yeah, sort of like I said, filling in all this around the eye, and then I'll go up and work on some of the smaller sort of scales of the feathers there from the tail. Fill those in a bit, and then it'll be time to shift the whole thing over once again. Yeah, I think I move my frame over about 3 or 4 times per month. Yeah, it's kind of how it works out. Goodness, pardon me. I have to pull up my electric throw blanket pretty soon. I have this, it's not a full electric blanket, it's like a lap blanket, and yeah, it's really nice when it starts to get chilly, especially when my feet get cold. Yeah, I really like having it. Yeah, it gets really hot too. I just I always have it on the lowest setting, and that's enough to take the chill away. Yeah, the thing is, we have hardwood in the living room here. Even with slippers on, I find it kind of sucks all the heat out of my feet. Especially if I'm sitting for longer periods, which, yeah, I tend to do when I'm stitching. Oh goodness, this one is really wanting to knot up on me. There we go. Did it on the very first stitch and then kept doing it. I may not have let it untwist enough before I threaded it onto my needle. Yeah, when you pull the threads out from the bunch, yeah, it's a good idea to sort of hold them up and let them completely untwist before you start, you know, stitching with them. Or they tend to tie knots in themselves, which, oh, darn. It's still doing. My gosh, you really do not want to cooperate with me, do you? Yeah, okay. Oh, no, that was a few stitches back. Okay. Yeah, I could feel that right there. Yeah, there it is. There's the loop right there. Okay, now it's nice and smooth again. That's better. Yeah, so if you rush that process sometimes, you end up paying for it later with having to untangle the thread while you're stitching with it, which is not fun. Yeah, and if you're stitching with several threads, like if you're stitching with 3, they say pull each strand out separately, let it untwist, and then group them back together before you start stitching with them, because yeah, otherwise they can end up getting very, very twisted on you and causing knots and problems with not lying nice and flat and all that while you're stitching with them. Because yeah, I knew somebody who would just sort of, she'd stitch with 3 strands, and so she'd just split the 6th strand right down the middle and not separate them, and yeah, she had a lot of problems with them twisting around each other and knotting up on her. So yeah, like I say, it takes a little longer to sort of pull each one, let it untwist, and then put it back together, but it saves you the trouble later. You can stitch with them more easily without them twisting on you while you're stitching with them, which nobody wants. Yeah, actually, I also read it was recommended that if you are having a lot of problems with twisting, they said pull out the strands, and rather than putting them back together the way they came out, you can actually put them opposite each other, and it may keep them from twisting up around each other. So I haven't tried it myself because I use loop starts like 99% of the time, but yeah, it was a tip that I heard, so thought I'll pass it along to you all. Yeah, so there is another artist whose work is being retired, I believe December 1st, on Have No Designs, and I I have blanked on the name, but if you go to their website, in their menu, they have a page called Charts Retiring, and it will be listed there. So you can, again, double check if there's anything you want to get before it's gone. Okay, so I'm just going to get a shorter piece here. Just to do these three that are kind of there. Yeah, I use loop starts and pin stitches to finish. I'd say on like 95% of my threads. Yeah. Oops. Yes, so I may hit 55% by the end of this month, but I'm not making it a goal. 54 should be no problem at all. So yeah, I think I still have 4 more sessions with you all after this one, so yeah, that won't be an issue. Each 1% is under 3,100 stitches, so. So yeah, I may divide this green up a bit, or I may keep going for it. Yeah, I think I'm going to divide it because looking at the other colors, I just have to fill in this whole corner to carry down. And I just don't feel like having that many needles going at once. So I'm thinking I'm going to sort of divide it here, and there'll be a bit more green to carry on towards the right later. Okay, so let's get, oh, I didn't mark that this was parked here, but yeah, I know that is the correct thread because I just used it. Actually, I'm able to make quite a visible amount of progress today because there's been a bit of a bigger block here, which has been nice. Okay, yeah, this is only really good for one more stitch, so we'll park it here in that straggler over there. Start a new strand when I do that color again, of course. Okay. Just seeing how many stitches there are in this area of that color. That determines how long of a piece I decide to attach. I'm going to use a full length. Time to tie this one off. It's getting raggedy. I could probably force another couple of stitches out of it, but yeah, I don't want to do that when it's getting all raggedy looking. Darn. I hate when it does that. I'm pulling a strand out and right at the very end, it grabs itself and won't let go. Yeah, so I think on this pass, tail feathers extend almost all the way to the very far end. Yeah, there's a little bit of the flowers and stuff, but not as much as last time. Yeah, they extend across almost the whole width from the center outward, yeah. So I think this is sort of where I'm going to do my cutoff for now. And again, I don't cut it off in a sharp straight line generally. I like to leave it a little ragged in that way. There's less chance of it forming a tension line in the work. So do these three. Pulled that a little too hard. Popped the loop right through before I had a chance to catch it. There we go. So kind of cutting it off here, probably going to slope it a bit this way, and then I will fill in that green again later. Yeah, I often kind of end up working in sort of ever widening rings around, at least when the motif is shaped like this. Yeah, that's what I tend to do. decided to start a new thread here. The other one was too short. That's not what I wanted to do. That is for sure. All right, so I'm going to do a few more, and then I think I will call it a day. Yeah, so thanks to my having a head start of over 200 stitches before I started filming for you all, and quite a lot of one color, I put up a pretty impressive number, I have to say. Here we go. Yeah, happy with that. So thank you so much for joining me today, and hope to see you here next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye.